I do not own the rights to this music. Hello and welcome to Sunday School Summary with Brother Ron. Sunday School lesson for Sunday, October the 20th, 2024. Our reference material for the Sunday School Summary is based upon the International Sunday School Lesson Series as published by the Sunday School Publishing Board. We are discussing Worship in the Covenant Community as the title of the Fall 2024 lesson series, and it is a discussion of the worship practices as a grateful response to the covenant relationship that God initiated with the people of Israel or with Abraham. The Worship in the Covenant Community lesson series is categorized into 3 units or groups of lessons, and we are in Unit 2. And we are discussing songs of the Old Testament. And these are examples of biblical figures who celebrate God through song. And we are discussing the song of the prophet Isaiah in today's lesson. The title of our 4th lesson in the Unit 2 Fall 2024 lesson series is titled Dinner Time. And it is a gourmet meal prepared for these children of God. The key verse comes from Isaiah chapter 25, verse 6, and it reads, "On this mountain the Lord Almighty will prepare a feast of rich food for all people, a banquet of aged wine and the best of meats and the finest of wines." And these are for those who are the survivors of God's judgment. Now, the title of today's lesson is Dinner Time from the book of Isaiah. And Isaiah was a prophet sent by God to warn the people in Judah of their evil ways and that they should seek God's forgiveness. The prophet Isaiah prophesied about the Jewish captivity and oppression in Babylon as a punishment for idolatry and disobedience to God. Isaiah also spoke prophecy to the deliverance of the Jewish people in spite of their sins. In today's lesson, the prophet Isaiah praises God for his righteous judgment and faithfulness. There are 2 summary lesson points for today. Praise for God's faithfulness, and that's from Isaiah chapter 25, verses 1 through 5. And the ultimate feast, and that's from Isaiah chapter 25, verses 6 through 10a. The passages for the lesson today revolve around the key words of faith, wisdom, and prophet. And we know that faith is the complete trust, assurance, belief, or confidence in God. The prophet Isaiah praises God for his faithfulness in today's lesson. We know that wisdom is the ability to apply experience, knowledge, and understanding to produce good judgment. It is the wisdom to acknowledge and remember God's faithfulness despite tribulations in today's lesson. And prophet is an individual who speaks by divine inspiration or as the interpreter through whom God's will is expressed. And it is the prophet Isaiah in today's lesson. Our first summary point is praise for God's faithfulness, and that's from Isaiah chapter 25, verses 1 through 5. In these passages, Isaiah composes a song to thank God by exalting God for the promises that he has kept. And Isaiah says, "Lord, you are my God." And he says, "I will praise you because your name is great. You have done great things. You decided a long time ago what you would do, and you have done exactly what you promised that you would do. And he goes on to say that he has been strength, that God destroyed cities so that they became heaps of stones, and they were the strongest cities. And he said that the beautiful palaces in those foreign lands have disappeared, and they will not be built again. And he says that so strong nations will praise you. And he said that the cruel nations will be afraid of you or will revere you. And he says, you, Lord, have been a safe place for poor people. So he's saying that that God has been a refuge. So in times of trouble, we can always see God and his protection in his refuge. And he says, when helpless people were in trouble, you have kept them safe. And he says, you were a place for them to hide from the storm. And we all have storms of life, and we can always hide from our storms through our faith in God that he will deliver us. And he says, you gave us shade from the heat. And he says, cruel people attack them like a storm that hits against a wall. So that he's saying that the stone is hitting against the wall, and that is God's protection. It's not hitting his people. And he goes on to say that it's like the strong heat in the desert. He says, you stop the loud noise of the proud people, of foreign people. And it says, like the shadow of a cloud that stops the heat of the sun. He says, you stopped our cruel enemies' song, so they will not be able to boast of victory over the Lord's people. And he goes on to say that you stopped them as they boasted of their strength. So, Lord, you are the God of all gods, and no one matches your strength. And we should rely on your strength in our times of trouble, because you have been faithful to us. Our second and final summary report is, our summary point is, thank you, praise for God's faithfulness. And that's from Isaiah chapter 25, verses 6 through 10a. And he says that the Lord Almighty will prepare a feast on this mountain. And that is for those who have survived God's judgment. And then God will bring all people together to this mountain for this great feast. And he says it will be a feast for all the nations of the world. And it will be a great feast, and it will have plenty of meat and wine. And the best meat and wine will be there. And he says, the Lord on this mountain will take away all the things that make the people sad. He will remove the cloth that covers the people of all nations. And the Almighty Lord will destroy death once and for all. And he will clean away the tears in everyone's eyes. His people will not be ashamed anymore, and nobody in the world will ever insult them again. And that's what the Lord has said as he has prepared this feast, just as he said he would. And he goes on to say, at that time, people will say, look, this is our God. We trusted him to keep us safe, and he rescued us. He says, yes, this is the Lord that we're talking about, that we trusted him to keep us safe. We will sing songs of joy because God has saved us, and the Lord's power will bless this mountain, or the Lord will have his hand on this mountain. So this is Brother Ron with the Sunday School Summary for Sunday, October 20th, 2024. Thank you for watching. Have a blessed week, and we hope to see you next Sunday for another edition of Sunday School Summary with Brother Ron. And trust in the Lord, because he is worthy to be praised.